Good Monday morning, everyone. Boy, it's been great to say that. It is Monday, January 23rd in the year 2023. I'm back, Mayor Chris Jenson here with a first edition of 2023 Mental Health Monday for you, which we're so excited. I am joined once again by my good friend, owner of Pathways to Healing here in Noblesville, Kristen Boice. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Mayor Jenson. I am so excited to be back for 2023. I hope this is helpful to everybody tuning in, and we're so glad to see you all.
That is our goal, is to be helpful here, and I have missed these conversations, but I'm. It's been nice. It's been good to kind of rejuvenate a little bit over the holidays. Think about where we're going for 2023. Focus a major way on our mental health, because you and I both know that mental health is physical health and vice versa. And so we're going to continue this conversation all throughout 2023. I think we're going to go to a monthly edition here in 2023. Bring on some special guests throughout the year to kind of tackle some new topics and be re-energized around our focus on mental health. So I'm personally excited about it. I hope you had a wonderful holiday, Kristen. I know you and I have talked offline, and I know you guys did. The Jenson crew had a wonderful holiday too, but I was like January, as much as I don't love the blah gray. It is, at least here in Indiana, blonde gray, but I do like a new year and a new start. So, and that's what we're going to kind of tackle and talk about today. So, but before we get started on this conversation, let's go and do a little breathing exercise, some square breathing, and I'll let you lead us through.
Okay. This is one of the most important things I can teach, and I highly recommend you doing it on a regular basis. I want to tell you a case in point of using this. So my daughter had an emergency appendectomy. 1:30 in the morning, she screams in pain. The good news is the breathing was key for her to manage the pain. So doing this every single day, I cannot underestimate that enough. When there is a situation where you need to work through pain, which we all will face, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, there's many forms of pain. This is the key to doing that. So it's called square breathing. You're going to put your feet on the floor. And this is key because the feet on the floor help center your nervous system. I was doing a lot of this as I'm trying to kind of come firefight this situation, assess the situation. And I could only do that as long as I didn't flip my lid, which means my prefrontal cortex would go offline. So I was breathing through the feet on the floor. You're going to inhale for 4 through your mouth, hold for 4, slowly exhale out your mouth for 8. And do this continuously until you can feel yourself with that prefrontal cortex like you're not flipped anymore. Come back online and you have more rational, clear thinking. So let's practice with 2 breaths together. So big, deep inhale, feet on the floor. Breathe in, deep, deep. Belly to the spine. And release. Deep inhale through your nose, belly to the spine. Okay.
That's the daughter calling you. Feel free to answer that. Don't you worry.
Oh, no, I don't think so. Mark's got it under control.
Perfect.
I came home to shower, so that was good. He was like, I need to shower. Yeah. Breathing throughout this process, like if you're in a crisis situation, and for the new year, if you have one thing you work on to gain more regulation, clarity, and calmness, this is the one thing I invite you into so you can get more of what you want, which is clear thinking, confidence, calm, inner peace, contentment, compassion. This is the first step in the recipe to helping you get where you want to go in the new year.
Well, it really is a resolution that you can control. It's a resolution that will not let you down. And we'll probably talk about resolutions at some point in time that everybody has in the new year. But, I think it's helpful over the holidays. We've talked a lot about leading up to the holidays, the stress of the holidays, and what breathing looks like. But there's a reason why if you see ever a Hollywood movie of somebody giving birth, or if you've ever been in a labor and delivery room, while breathing is so important, I think it speaks to all that. And it's something we do every single day, but we probably don't consciously do over time as well. So
the beauty that I love to recognize is now in the ER, that's the first thing they say. That's
yeah,
the first thing they're teaching you. And to calm your nervous system is how to breathe.
yep.
And like, yay, we're getting this. We're really knowing the value in this as a first step in healing and getting you where you want to go.
So you hit it on the head. We're going to talk a little bit about healing in the new year. We're going to talk a little bit about focusing our energy on healing and creating room to create more of what you want. So that's, I think, something that everyone wants to focus on. How can I focus my life on having more things around it that you want? How do we focus our energy on healing? So we're going to tackle kind of both of those issues today. Just a quick, if you have any questions while we're talking here today, feel free to type them in the chat. If we don't have an answer on the fly for you, we will get back to you with that. Feel free to say hi. This is meant to be interactive, but we also know this goes out throughout the entire several weeks in between when we record these live as well. So again, chime in if you'd like to, but let's start there, Kristen, a little bit about channeling our energy around healing in 2023. And what does that look like? And what does that mean?
Yeah, I think the key here is we think we're going to set these New Year's resolutions. Okay. We've heard this we have so much research now on New Year's resolutions. How effective are they? What makes them work? Why do we do them? Because we want to make a change. We really do. We just don't, we think I'll set the goal and then I'll make the change. I mean, that's how we've been programmed for so long. And really, I kind of want to take a back way to look at it. What I think matters the most is what are your priorities and your values. So if I value, for instance, I value authenticity. I love it when people are vulnerable. They're truthful. They say what's really on their heart. They don't give me a placated answer like what they think I want to hear or a people pleasing answer. They really are authentic. It helps my nervous system go, oh, that feels so nice. It's not sifted through. So I know authenticity is something that I'm going to be whenever I make a decision or set a goal. That's a framework in which I'm looking at. I like to know, is that goal really getting me towards more of what I want? Which is more authenticity. I want more vulnerability in my life through my relationships with my kids. I want them to be able to tell me the truth and how they feel, even though it's hard when they do sometimes. Or with my husband, I want the truth to come to the forefront. That's where the connection lies. So you kind of come up with, what do you value? Do you value connection? Do you value your faith? Do you value vulnerability and authenticity? Maybe you value this whole idea of hard work, compassion, whatever that looks like for you. You come up with what are my kind of values, and then we back into how do I create more of and live into those values without these expectations that really aren't reasonable or attainable.
So really, it does involve a little upfront work on yourself to kind of decide what you want to focus on in 2023. And then you're going to kind of walk us through on how we kind of focus our energy around that. But okay, perfect. I just want to get some context around this a little bit.
Yeah. So the first step is kind of identifying, what do you value? What do you want more of in your life? So if you want more deep connected relationships, let's say, for example, because that's what I'm hearing often,
Yep.
like I want more deep connection. I don't want these surfacey friendships or partnership. I want to have deep conversations. Okay. What do you need to bring to the table to have more deep conversations? Oh, I need to be more vulnerable. I don't need to be like, oh, I have it all together.
I'm fine.
Everything's fine, feelings inside not expressed.
Yeah.
You're not really sharing what's going on. And that's what you've done so well on our talks, is you've shown us what it looks like to be a human being and be vulnerable. You're the mayor. People can associate that with this image of what that looks like. And you're more connectable because you're saying real life feelings and examples of what's going on in life. And I think this new year, people want that. That's what I'm seeing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to time out on that because I wanted to kind of back up and talk about if you are hearing a lot about more about, because I love that authentic conversation piece. I think anyone who knows me, even just on this show or outside the show, no, I tend to be pretty authentic, probably to a fault. But I usually, as my wife said yesterday, sometimes lack a filter. I just kind of say it as it is. But I just think that you have one chance to be one version of yourself, and so be it. If whatever. So, but why do you think in this society right now? I mean, I have theories in my head about social media and the pressure of the perfect family or the perfect life. But can you maybe touch upon why you think society right now wants to really put a focus on 2023 around authentic, meaningful relationships?
I think we're the loneliest we've ever been. Research says we are the loneliest we've ever been, according to research. You can take that with a grain of salt, but I think it's true. We are lonely. We see on social media, we've moved more towards social media and we think that's our form of connection. While that can provide some, a lot of people, we're seeing a trend in social media with more authentic, less filters, less these scripted videos. People want to know, who are you? What's going on in your life? Because guess what? We feel less alone the more real we are. And I think in 2023, we are going to see more people working towards being able to be more transparent in what's going on. And then we're going to teach skills, which is what I love to do, on how to acknowledge what someone shares with you. So, oh, thank you for sharing that. That's so hard, because that creates the connection. So if we look at what we want more of in 2023 to address the loneliness, the shame of not feeling good enough, the disconnection we feel, this anxiety and the depression, we're going to see more and more people moving towards how to be more themselves. We've heard that for years, but how do we do that? We do that by creating a culture, one person at a time, where we show up more vulnerably and put the masks down. And it doesn't mean I just tell you everything in my whole life. It means I tell you from the heart, hey, I'm going through a hard time right now. You don't have to share everything, but we are humans. We've got to stop this. We don't have any issues. Everybody's got something. And in 2023, we're going to name it, start putting it out on the table more, and start normalizing that we all have pain points, and stop pretending that because we look at people on social media and we think, well, how come they have all their life together? And what's wrong with me that I'm just a mess over here? And I'm like, yeah, but they're not going to be they're not putting everything out there. And I'm not saying that's the answer. What I'm saying is one-on-one relationships, that's the answer. To start being more transparent, start sharing a little bit more deeply about how you feel, and let's see if that changes.
So I wanted to mention something there, because I do think I've seen a little bit of a cultural shift the last maybe year or so from the idolization of people on social media, the perfect life, to almost some resentment towards those people who, and quite frankly, they're just making it up anyways, right? I mean, almost resentment towards those people of like, that's not their real life. I know that's not, so it's really a disingenuous mixed messaging system there. But then I've also seen some people swing to the other side, to your point of like, I'm just going to lay out everything that's going wrong in on social media, which is also a little bit like, yeah, I think you're almost, there's some people questioning that too. So let's talk about that middle ground. What does, if I want to be more vulnerable, if I want to, how do I dip into that? You talked a lot about personal relationships, personal conversations, probably where it needs to start, but you want to kind of guide us on how do I, if that's what I want to bring to the table in 2023, where do I start?
This is what I'm teaching my daughter now, because this is they're learning how to have these, and I want her to learn young. How do I have these conversations to be more vulnerable, even though it's scary and I could be rejected? And really, rejection can open a door to something called protection. So that's how we reframe rejection, but it hurts and it's hard. We start off by saying, I feel sad. Like today, I started off with, okay, my daughter, I shared what's going on in my life. And you don't have to start with that. It could be something like, hey, I'm having a hard day and I just need some space to vent. Okay, that's a way to start. I don't need you to fix it. I don't need you to problem solve it. I just kind of need a vent. That's a way to tip your toe in the water. And maybe you're sharing one hard thing that happened that day. Maybe you're just sharing more emotionally, like, I feel sad today, I'm having a grief burst. And they can, and someone can, now if someone's not available to receive that, you have that information. You have that information, you go, okay, that may be someone I'm not going to really attempt to have a deeper connection with because they're not available. Doesn't make them wrong or bad. Maybe they just didn't learn how to emotionally connect in a more vulnerable way. That's why I love teaching this. And in 2023, as we look at new year, new goals, so to speak, or maybe you have goals that you've carried over this year, really look deeper rather than the exercise goals are great. Those are wonderful. What if we can share a little bit more each day? I feel sad. I feel scared. And so we can start emotionally connecting with deeper relationships. Try it on consistently, see how it gets, and see what gets pulled up for you. A lot of times, what people will do is they'll go, "Oh, I should never have said that." They think I'm a mess now, and they think I'm just this wreck of a person, and I'm nobody. They're going to think differently of me. We make up these stories. They're called shame stories, and so then that takes us out of sharing again. Or we've made all that up. We don't even know if that's true or not. So we have to try something different to get, you've heard this expression, to get different results. If we do the same thing, you're going to get the same results. You're going to stay in loneliness. So, and maybe it's going to a support group. Maybe it's volunteering around the community. Maybe it's doing a similar hobby to you, and you're starting to really pick people that you might feel more comfortable, because it's always uncomfortable to be more vulnerable and scary.
Mm-hmm.
Pick a group that maybe you can try it on a little bit more. Maybe you're in a book club.
So I want to ask a question about this vulnerability because I love this topic. And I love this example, which I want to talk a little bit later about some other examples. Like if vulnerability is not what you want in 2023, and that's totally fine. We get that as well. There may be something else you want to bring to the table. And so I'm going to ask you about maybe some other examples of things people might want to be seeking in 2023. I want to talk a little bit about, for those parents out there, about modeling vulnerability. Because that can be, I would imagine, a tricky, and I'm speaking out of turn here. I'm a mayor PR major. So I'm trying to think. But as a parent, like I love my kids to see vulnerable adults, us as parents be vulnerable, share kind of a real, we always do like a high, low, weird every single night at dinner. Or when, let's be honest, we don't have dinner every night around the table. Sometimes it's McDonald's in the car. But we try to share how weird. Yesterday, Julie and I got a little tiff about some communication style between the two of us yesterday morning. And so one of her like weirds was like, Daddy and I were kind of mad at each other this morning, just being honest with our kid, and just kind of laughed off. And I was like, yeah, I kind of said something not very nice. And I was like, well, okay, that was actually, I think it's good for them to see, like, hey, we had a little bit of an argument, but we, and we moved on and we had dinner and all's fine. But can you talk a little bit about vulnerability and how to model that maybe within a family situation or amongst kids?
That is such a beautiful thing you just illustrated, because that's exactly what I work with. I do family therapy.
Yep.
We work on being more vulnerable and how we do that as a family. And here's the caveat. One is you didn't put that on your kids to manage. You didn't make that, that wasn't the case. So here's what happened. I'll give you an example. That's a very important example, because transparency and vulnerability is essential to your children's development from the parent. Now, I'm not oversharing. I'm not putting the problem on the child. I'm literally saying, I got this. You don't need to caretake me. I'm just having it. So Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, I had a grief burst. They're opening gifts. And I just was like, I had a grief burst come up, and I couldn't stuff it down. It wasn't like I can just take it and stuff it. And I said, this isn't you. You've done nothing. I'm not upset with you. I'm having a grief burst. I'm feeling really sad. This is my first Christmas without my mom. I'm feeling sad, and I said, how do you guys feel? And they're like, I feel sad too. And it was a moment where it gave them permission.
Yeah, kind of brought everybody together
first. And now if they didn't feel grief, that's fine. Maybe they felt fine. And maybe they felt, not fine. Maybe they felt, happy. That it doesn't matter. They didn't have to feel the same way. It gave everybody permission now to be transparent about what they felt. Now I asked a key question. I shared, and then I said, how do you feel? And like if Mark and I get into a tiff, which all marriages,
every couple gets into tiffs all the time. Let's be honest.
I'm a marriage therapist, and that's we all get.
You get in tiffs even though you're a marriage therapist?
Oh, how
like
dare!
A really chubby doctor, you know what I mean? Like it happens.
It happens, and so they get to see us work it out. And the key here is if we get into a tiff, I say, how are you feeling? They're like, yeah, I feel sad. Are you and dad going to get divorced? And if even if somebody else is in a situation where that might be the case, in this situation, it wasn't. And so I said, no, how are you feeling? I feel scared. And we get to process.
Mhm.
So it's sharing how you feel. And then we ask, how do you feel now? What's coming up for you as I'm kind of sharing? So I'm now turning it so the kid gets to share how they feel. Key question every single time. So if I'm having a vulnerable moment, then I say, how do you feel? Now I'm creating space for them to process how they feel. This is key in most couple situations too, or friendships. You share how you feel, and then you can go, how are you feeling? It's a key question. And if I could teach everybody, and not how are you feeling like in a therapeutic way, it's how are
Right.
you legit? Like, I want to know, how are you feeling? What's coming up for you? What are you noticing? Like, what's going on for you? That's key for children. Key for children. So parents think, oh, I did that, and I'm like, awesome. We got step one. Beautiful job. Now, what's the follow-up question? How are you feeling? And they're like, oh, okay. Because guess what? We weren't asked that many
Yeah.
times. But some
Yeah.
people are very few. How are you feeling? And in
It's
2020,
not only allowing them to vocalize their actual feelings, but it's also then identifying with the feeling.
exactly. And in 2023, create more intention around what you want more of. If you want more connection with your kids, your grandkids, your friends, you got to ask how someone's feeling. How are they really doing? What's going on? You got to have a keen curiosity about who they are. And I think in 2023, if you have goals, personal goals, of financial goals, that's all fantastic. And I think you got to write daily things down to get to the goal. If you want more of like personal like connection, then we have to bring those things consistently to the table. That's the key in creating outcomes that you want. And I think that's much different than a resolution. And every day, so for example, I pick a word. I think we talked about this before, but I picked a word for this year of something that's going to frame my goals, frame more of what I want. And the word that came through for me is expansion, and it's expansion of heart, soul, spirit, mind, and body. I'm expanding it to open it up to love bigger, to love more, instead of like not constricted, can't talk today, sleep deprivation.
Mhm.
It's expansion of heart. And so I encourage everyone to see if there's a word for you that might be your guidepost to help you with what more you want in the new year. Like, what more do you want in your life?
So I'm going to ask you a question on your goal there because I don't have a word yet. I need to work on that. And it's probably not too late because you can always pick a word. Is there something in particular that caused you to move towards expansion? Because I imagine in this day and age of the hustle and bustle, you have two girls that are high school girls, a lot going on. Some people would be like, how, Kristen Boice, how do you have room to expand? I mean, most people are like, holy cow, I'm trying to just hold on to what I have or cut out. How are you expanding?
Yeah, I think it's not expansion in the physical sense, which is very different. It's expansion in my energy, my like my capacity. It's not a growth expansion in a physical sense. It's a growth expansion in an internal sense. And so therefore that I have more of a capacity to love them bigger. I have more of a capacity to love myself. I have more of a capacity to expand my way of thinking. So it's an expansion in a different way. And I think I did this with my family, and I encourage you to pick a word with your family. So at Christmas Eve, we had the whole family together, my in-laws, and I was like, we're going to pick a word. And they're like, oh, here goes
Here we
Kristen.
go.
Here we go. And so they're all of us, the whole family, the kids, the adults, we all picked a word and we shared what we want more of in 2023. And I encourage you, it's really cool to see, get to know people in a different way, and to hear their words or their phrase. Some people wanted a phrase. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
if you want a phrase, go for it. But it's a great connective exercise to do. And then in the new year, I recommend you check in, and my team does this at Pathways. What we do is pick a word, and then now we check in every month. How's it going? What's showing up? Are you getting more of what you want? How's the healing process in it? Because usually the word does envelop some healing. At the same time, it envelops this idea of growth. So we're like healing and we're growing at the same time. So I encourage you to do that with your family, your coworkers, your friends, whatever system you're in, and then talk about it. It's a way to build deeper connection and get to know people better.
Love it. Before we run out of time, I want to talk about you. You talked about, if you wanted to bring more authenticity to the table in 2023, here's how you do this. If I'm sitting here thinking like, I don't really want any authenticity in 2023, totally respect that. So what else are you thinking people are wanting to bring in 2023? And what does that look like?
I think people are wanting to be more healthy. That's usually 20. I mean, every year
Yep.
you're going to hear people want to be more healthy. They want to, they've lost maybe a loved one, or they have somebody in their life struggling with a health issue. And it's kind of woken them up to say, between now and when I pass, how do I want to live my life? People want more energy. They want more vitality. They want to be able to live their lives longer. And so health is constantly one. I see anxiety and depression. People want to feel better about them. They want to feel better emotionally. And we have to face the pain. This is what nobody wants to hear in order to heal it. What does that look like? That means naming the emotions, not burying, numbing, stuffing things down. We get it more in the open so we can process, nurture, and attend to that. And I think people are really trying to figure out what habits they've got to change the system, to change not only their life, but their kids' lives, grandkids' lives. What habits have they developed that no longer serve them, that they want to focus on? And I say pick one to start with. People are like, I want to do this. And I think that's wonderful, but I think your brain and your body only have so much capacity. I think capacity is important. Pick 3 goals, start with those. You can always write down more, but pick 3 you're going to prioritize and focus on those. Otherwise, you're going to get overwhelmed and be like, forget it.
Yep.
And be gentle with yourself.
One day at a time, right? As with these things. So that's really, really helpful. So I do think I would agree with you. I think coming out of COVID, we're now decently past the real lockdown of COVID time. And I think people are starting to reassess their life. I had multiple conversations about like the 30 pounds that people put on during COVID, myself included. And okay, now it's really time to get serious about, how do we get ourselves back to that reset point going forward and better in our lives? So I'm excited for those conversations with people. And I hope people bring whatever you want to bring to the table. I hope that you share that with us, or share it with a friend or a neighbor, or let someone know what you want to do in 2023. Because I know there's a lot of folks that want to root on others, myself included. So please feel free to share those. I know you do too. So this has been a great conversation. I'm excited to continue these in 2023 and check in on them, and check in on your word and others too. And when we meet back here in February, I think in February too, maybe Kristen, we can make a note about kind of like if you're in that resolution slump, or kind of feeling you're off the January high and now you're like, oh, it's still dark and cold and I'm still chubby. And, so, how do we refire ourselves in February? So we'll look forward to tackling that and much, much more in February. But if I need help right now, if I'm in a dark spot, and if you're looking at us saying, Kristen and Chris, that's great that you want to bring authenticity. I am just clinging to life right now and struggling. Where do I go?
First of all, it's okay. And you're not alone in that. And if you need anything, 988 for mental health. There's trained mental health clinicians on the other end of that line, either text or phone, and it's available 24/7. I cannot tell you enough. If I could put that everywhere in every school, 988, 988, 988, it is so important that we pass that message along and know that you matter. And text it or call it if you need anything. They will help guide you in the right direction.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, Kristen, again, so wonderful to see you in January as we kick off a awesome edition of 2023 and Mental Health Monday. We'll be back in February with another edition and lots of new topics. In the meantime, feel free to chime in. We check these Facebook posts throughout the entire week. So even when we're not on here live, if you have any questions, we are happy to answer them and help direct you. The city of Noblesville has great resources on our Facebook page as well. And again, just reach out if you need help. But in the meantime, stay safe. And Kristen, I look forward to seeing you soon. Happy 2023.
Yeah, here's to a great 2023.
Cheers. All right.